Please stop eating that. No, bad. Bad for cat. Hi everybody, it's Aislinn, and today I'm going to be quickly talking to you about my November wrap-up because I think I read 7 books this month. Sorry, my cat is trying to eat these like decorative branches that I have. Like look like this, and she's really into them. Can you please not? So for me, it was a good reading month, as in like how many books I read. I was really proud for getting through 7 when I still had a bunch of assignments due and I was still working and everything. So that part was a bonus. I only had 1 5-star this month, but still some good reading. So let's just get into it. I'll quickly talk about those. So the first book that I read during November was Winterwood. I have it on my Kindle because I had it as an ARC, and I really enjoyed it. It was really fun, and it was the perfect book to read to kind of start going into the winter vibe and aesthetic. I kind of wish I'd read it now because it's like snowing out and everything. Like it wasn't snowing at the beginning of November. It did snow later in the month, but now like it snowed this morning and everything. So it would have been perfect to have read during that time, but it was still really good. It had a super atmospheric, very magical realism element to it, especially with the woods itself. I gave it 4 stars just because I loved the characters and I did like the atmosphere and the setup that Earnshaw gave, but the plot twist in it was predictable, and I was able to call it about halfway through the book. Same with Nora's like nightshade power was kind of predictable, but I don't know if that's because of how Earnshaw sets it up with the book. So you like kind of want to shake Nora and be like, it's right there, like you literally feel this way for a reason, and then she finds out later. But it was still really well done and I did enjoy it. The characters were really fun. The side characters were kind of forgettable. I honestly don't even know if I remember their names now, but overall I did enjoy it. And if you're looking for an atmospheric witchy novel, I would say definitely pick it up. I do wish there was more about the woods, just because there wasn't actually that much that took place inside them. Plus, what I also really liked about the book was how between each chapter there was like a little entry for the magical journal that Nora's family has that would talk about a different Walker woman and like what their nightshade was, and like kind of like a little blurb about their life, which was really interesting to like hear about their history outside of what Nora like talked about in the narrative. And that was really fun. I have more details about it on my review on my blog, which I will link in the description if you want to read like a full in-depth recap and review of it. But that was basically my thoughts. So that was the first book that I read. The second one, so I have to go around my cat here, was Scythe by Neil Shusterman. I finally got to this after owning it on my TBR for, I think I figured it was like 2 years or something like that. So I was pleasantly surprised because I wasn't sure how to go into it because I hadn't read a Neil Shusterman book in years. And this was really fun. I also gave it 4 stars. It wasn't 5 because I hate to say that I like read other people's feelings before I do my own reviews, because I do formulate my own thoughts, but I was like, like, did anyone else feel this way kind of thing about this book? And I have seen some other people comment about how the characters fell a bit flat, even though they're like the 2 main people you follow. And I do agree. Like the 2 main characters, with Rowan, is it Rowan? See, I can't even remember their names. Yeah, Rowan and Citra. Citra's a fun name. Like they were good, but they were very like basic. Like Citra's like the good person, and then Rowan gets taken in by like a bad side. I don't know. Maybe that's a spoiler. I don't really think so. But like, sorry, drinking about hot chocolate. My favorite characters in this book were Scythe, Mary Curie, mostly because she was a badass lady, and the fact that her name's Mary Curie, and Scythe, is his name Furyborn? No, Faraday. Wow, I was so off. Scythe Faraday and Scythe Mary Curie. Favorite characters. Love them. They were fun. And the world was so well done. Like the world building, even though it's in the future, and the futuristic aspect, and like the Scythedom and all the rules. Like it was basically lining up to be a full 5 stars, like great fantasy. I do love the series, and I already have bought Thunderhead, which is like right here to read. Like I do want to continue reading this, and I love it so much. I just wish the characters were a bit more fleshed out and a bit more, I don't know, not so typical. Like they just felt very like they fell into their roles as the book went on, like of what you would expect of them, and it was just a bit. I don't know. That part wasn't good, but I did enjoy the book, and I'm going to read Thunderhead probably in January because I don't want to forget too much of what happened in this book. And that was basically my feelings on that one. The third book that I read was Furyborn, which was all. I don't have the cover up here, but it was on my Kindle as well. Cat, please stop eating that. No, bad. Bad for cat. I just have to keep simultaneously moving those. So, Furyborn, I also had got as an ARC on my Kindle, like, when it first came out, which was in 2018, and I just didn't get around to reading it until now. I have mixed feelings. I also just published a review for it on my blog because I didn't want to talk about it, like, super in-depth here, and I had a lot of thoughts. So definitely go read that if you want to know. But basically, I gave Furyborn 3 stars, kind of 3.5, because I loved Eliana's story. I thought hers was so much more interesting and fun to follow, even though it is kind of like part of it is kind of monotonous in the sense that it's like they have like to go on certain quests, but it's like it seems repetitive, but the reasoning behind it was good, and I loved the characters. Like I loved Remy and Nav. They were super interesting and some of the best side characters I've read recently. And I really love Simon. I know a lot of people were like iffy about him with Eliana. Obviously not spoilery, but I really like him as a character, and I thought his connection with her was interesting, just even like in a friendship way. And for Riel, I just didn't care at all about her story, which is disappointing because of my excitement for it. But like, she just has to go through monotonous trials because she's the most powerful of the casters, blah, blah, blah. And like, you know, she's going to pass them. And it was unnecessary, especially for what the prologue and like before history is and what it tells you. It just made it redundant. Like, it doesn't matter. Okay, I'm just going to say it because it's not really a spoiler because you literally find out in the first 10 pages that Riel obviously becomes the Blood Queen rather than the Sun Queen. And it's like, so you know she already becomes the Blood Queen, and then you have to watch her go through all these trials to become the Sun Queen when you know she's going to become evil. So it's just like, it would have been more interesting to have just the prologue where you find that out and not have her like story and just have Eliana's, and it would have saved me so much time and grief and made it so much more interesting and made the plot so much more interesting. And also it should have taken out like the end bit of the prologue because it like really makes the major plot twist not a major plot twist and really obvious. Like I also guessed that about halfway through with how it was played out. And it's just the side characters in Riel's story weren't as interesting. I think I only really liked Audric, and the fact that he also wasn't white, which was really cool and nice to see that it was like a very diverse cast of characters for both storylines, and how it was like a he wasn't just like the typical white prince in like the White King as his like dad, so they were royalty of color, I guess you could say. They're basically like they're described as black, so that's what I'm going with. But either way, it was a really mixed bag of loved it but didn't love it at the same time. I have bought Kingsbane, so I am gonna read it, mostly because I just care about Eliana, and like I'm really debating skipping Riel's story in this unless it just focuses on the angel part. Then I would read it. Like, I mean, I say I would skip it, but I'm not gonna. So there's that. But basically, had high hopes, was a little let down, but I'm still going to continue on with it. So there's that. Moving on, the fourth book that I read was Spin the Dawn by Elizabeth Lim. And this was my 5-star read of the month. And it was so good. I do have a review video that I'm going to be posting, so I won't go too much into it. So if you really want to know my thoughts, watch that. But it was everything I wanted in a fantasy. It was so good and well written and immersive, and the characters were so well done, and the character growth was so well done. Just everything about it was amazing, and it was honestly one of my favorite reads of the year. Definitely one of my favorite series of all time, or duology, because the second book is coming out in July of 2020. I'm already so excited, and I'm so upset I have to wait so long. But I've seen also mixed feelings about this book based on how it's written. So I will do a disclaimer of this book is much more character driven than plot driven. So if you don't like that, that may be a factor for you. But if you love character driven books, like I like both. I haven't really been like super picky. Then you will love this book, I think. It is very different from Mulan, and I know that's like a mentioned part of like the synopsis. It's like Project Runway meets Mulan, but it's like the only thing similar to Mulan is how she takes her place as her father. Like Mai takes place for her father going to the palace to compete to be Imperial Tailor, and she like disguises herself as a boy, basically, like in place of her brother. So that's like the only major comparison to Mulan. But the characters were just so good. Maya and Eden. Even the Emperor is so interesting. So go read Spin the Dawn if you want a good fantasy. Or YA fantasy with romance. All that jazz. I loved it. I won't say too much more because I will 100% spoil it. And I am going to do it. I have my video about it that I've already recorded. I just have to upload it. So that will be coming soon. So keep an eye out. Moving on. The fifth book that I read was Tweet Cute by Emma Lord. And this comes out in 2020. So I did get it as a digital arc through work. And it was really cute. It was really fun. It was like a fun YA contemporary with some romance. It does deal with some kind of important family issues, I think, and like family pressure in expectations. And it was really fun. It follows Pepper and Jack. It was really good to get both their perspectives, I think, if it was just like Pepper's perspective, as it traditionally does follow like the girl's perspective. If it's like one lone, it wouldn't have been as good, I think, but having Jack's was really fun. Also the fact that their nicknames Pepper Jack, I don't know. And it was just fun. It was fun, lighthearted, contemporary read. I absolutely loathed Pepper's mom. She was don't get me started. She was a terrible person. Did not enjoy her. So it was just fun. I don't know if I have a lot more to say about it. I don't know if I'd ever reread it, but it was cute. Hence the name Tweet Cute. And I did enjoy reading it. So it was a 4-star. 4-star read. I had fun. It wasn't like my favorite, but I really liked it more than I expected to. So there was that. And then the sixth book that I read was Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. This was also really fun. It's an adult romance, kind of contemporary, and I was really needing a lighthearted read, even though I had just read Tweet Cute, and I was like, I'm still in the mood for some romance, so I read this, and it was good. It was 4 stars. Wasn't my absolute favorite. It did take about a third of the book for me to kind of invest myself in Red and Chloe, but I liked them individually as characters. Like them and their relationship took a bit more for me to get invested in, but by the end of it I really wanted them to get together, and I was like waiting. This was also fun because you get both their perspectives, even though it's third person. So that's kind of unique about a romance book. So yeah, it was fun. I would definitely reread it, but like not for a while. I had been hoping that this would be on the level of The Hating Game for me, but it wasn't. I might just have to accept the fact that nothing will ever be on the level of The Hating Game except The Hating Game. So there's that. But if you want a good romance with diverse characters, also this covers a lot of important issues with like chronic illness and disability and perspectives around that, and what really like challenging how family members and loved ones like view and treat people with chronic illness and disability. So that was really important, and it was really nice to see Chloe get her happy ending. And it really is good to convey the message that obviously everybody deserves to be loved in that way, or any way that they want. So highly enjoyed. 4 stars. Great. And then the last book that I read, because I was on that romance hype, was The Friendzone by Abby Jimenez. This was good. It would have been great if the ending hadn't have happened, or the epilogue, or a lot of things. I gave this 3 stars, but I'm really leaning more towards 2.5 based on character attitudes, traumatic events that happened and how they're dealt with, and basically a lot surrounding just the ending. The ending left such a bad taste in my mouth. Like, I'm just like, this would have been a 4 star. But then the ending happened. And it became a 3 star, probably no more, 2, because of how there was just so much character development and growth and important choices made. And then the ending literally just like made that all redundant and really sent a bad message to women who experience infertility and their value. And I was just not happy. Also, in this, Kristen is really described as like the cool girl and like the not like other girls trope, which is super fucking annoying. Because it felt very like 2010. Like it felt so old and like unnecessary. But like, I love Josh. He is a soft marshmallow, one of my favorite love interests. And it was also nice to get his perspective. But I'm just disappointed but not surprised, in all honesty. And I also have more thoughts on, like, spoiler thoughts on my Goodreads review of it. So if you want to know, go look at that, like, explicitly about what happened. But basically, I was just let down. I definitely probably won't reread this just because I'm so angry about the ending. And, like, I don't want to read it knowing what's going to happen. And, like, building up to that, I probably will read this. Like, there's going to be another book about another character from this, like it's coming out next year. It's like a sequel kind of thing, so I will read that, I think. But I just wasn't happy with this. So ending on a 2-star note, 3-star note was kind of a bummer. But this was the last book that I read in November. I have started Cookie Kingdom. I can say that I'm like 200 pages in and I'm loving it so far. I just haven't got that far through it. And I really want to be able to like sit down and read it when I have large chunks of time, so I'm not like only reading 5 pages at a time, because there's so much good stuff in it. And I've also started Down Among the Sticks and Bones by Shauna Maguire, and I just haven't been in the mood to read it, so I'm going to try to push myself through that. So the only book I didn't get to on my TBR was Beneath Crow Fathoms by Anella Dean, which I'm pretty proud of, that I got through all of them except for one, or at least started all of them except for one. So I will try to get into that before the end of the year, but we'll see how that goes. So thank you for watching. I will let you know what my December TBR is going to be. So like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.